This is a water snake, and this is a cottonmouth. Now you might be thinking that they look pretty similar. Well, there's a reason why people mistake these guys all the time. So let me explain. I'm with a wildlife control company. I've been doing this for over 18 years. And today I want to talk about the main reasons why people get water snakes and cottonmouths confused, and why it's such a big deal. Because believe it or not, it is a very costly mistake. Now, before we go into that, I want to thank you for clicking on this video. It means a lot to me. I'm just trying to get good information out there to people. And if you subscribe to my channel, I really appreciate it, because then I can educate more people. But enough of that. Let's go ahead and dive right into it. Alright, here's what we're going to cover. We're going to cover some of the biggest mistakes that people make when trying to identify these snakes. We're going to cover why those mistakes happen and why it could be a problem. And finally, we're going to go over some easy ways to tell them apart. And by the end of this video, you should be able to identify both of these snakes accurately every time. Alright, let's jump right into it. Let's start off with the mistakes. Here are the top 3 mistakes that people make when trying to identify these snakes. Number 1, assuming any thick snake in the water is a cottonmouth. Now I know that might seem obvious, but honestly it's not. There are several different kinds of water snakes, and many of them are very similar in appearance to cottonmouths. And if you don't know what you're looking for, it's easy to see a thick snake in the water and automatically assume it's a cottonmouth. Number 2, relying solely on color or pattern. Now, this is another mistake that's made very commonly, especially by people who don't have a lot of experience with snakes. They'll see a snake and base their identification on its color or pattern alone. And while this can be a helpful clue, it's not always reliable. Water snakes come in a variety of colors and patterns, and they can look very similar to cottonmouths. And number 3, ignoring behavior. Now, this is probably the biggest mistake that's made when trying to identify these snakes. Many people don't realize that behavior can be a very important clue when trying to identify a snake. For example, cottonmouths will often freeze when threatened, whereas water snakes will usually try to flee. This behavior can be very helpful in identifying these snakes, but it's often overlooked. Now you're probably asking yourself, why do these mistakes matter? Well, these mistakes matter for a couple of reasons. First and foremost, it could be a matter of life and death. Cottonmouths are venomous, and their bite can be very dangerous to humans. In fact, there are around 5,000 to 6,000 venomous snake bites in the US each year, and a large percentage of those are cottonmouths. Now, luckily, cottonmouth bites are rarely fatal, but they can be very painful, and they can cause swelling, bleeding, and even paralysis. Not only that, but getting bitten by a cottonmouth can be very expensive. Medical care for a venomous snake bite can cost thousands of dollars. And if you live in an area where cottonmouths are common, chances are you've probably seen at least one of these in your lifetime. And it's not uncommon for people to kill them out of fear of being bitten. However, in most cases, cottonmouths are shy creatures, and they will avoid humans if possible. They typically bite only when they feel threatened or cornered. And in most cases, they will give you a warning bite first. And if you know what to look for, you can easily tell whether or not you're dealing with a cottonmouth. First, let's take a look at their heads. A cottonmouth has a triangular shaped head, whereas a water snake's head is more rounded. And another thing to look for is the width of their head. A cottonmouth's head is much wider than its neck, whereas a water snake's head is the same width as its neck. Next, let's look at their eyes. A cottonmouth has vertical pupils, kind of like a cat, whereas a water snake has round pupils. Now, this can be a bit tricky, but if you look closely, you should be able to tell the difference. Another thing to look for are the heat-sensing pits. Most pit vipers, which include cottonmouths, have heat-sensing pits between their eyes and nostrils. These pits allow them to sense the heat signature of their prey, which helps them to ambush their prey more effectively. Now, not all pit vipers have these pits, but most of them do. And if you see a snake that has a pair of pits on either side of its head, chances are it's a cottonmouth. Alright, now let's look at their bodies. A cottonmouth is typically heavier and thicker bodied than a water snake, and their bodies are often cross-banded or blotched. As they age, their coloration becomes more solid. Now, keep in mind that not all cottonmouths look like this. In fact, there are several different color morphs of cottonmouths, but they all have one thing in common: they are thick-bodied. Now, water snakes, on the other hand, are typically longer and more slender than cottonmouths. Their bodies are also blotched or banded, but their patterns are more faded as they age. and overall they have a more slender appearance than cottonmouths. And finally, let's look at their behavior. Cottonmouths are known for their aggressive behavior. They're often referred to as the mola of the snake world because they will often freeze when threatened and then suddenly strike without warning. They may also perform a threat display, which involves gaping or showing the white inside of their mouth. This behavior is often misinterpreted as a defensive response, but it's actually a form of aggression. Cottonmouths are also known for vibrating their tails when threatened, and they will often hiss loudly and coil themselves up in an S-curve posture. Water snakes, on the other hand, are usually less aggressive than cottonmouths. They will typically try to flee rather than stand and fight, and they're unlikely to perform a threat display or vibrate their tails. So now you know what to look for when trying to identify these snakes. But what should you do if you encounter one of these in the wild? Well, the first thing you should do is observe it from a distance. Don't try to approach or handle the snake. If it appears to be a cottonmouth, remember that they are venomous and a bite can be dangerous. If you're unsure what the snake is, slowly back away from it and give it some space. If it's a water snake, it should eventually swim away. But if it's a cottonmouth, it may freeze in place or perform a threat display. If this happens, continue to back away slowly and calmly until you're a safe distance away. It's also a good idea to educate yourself on the snake species in your area. This way you'll be familiar with the snakes that are native to your area and you'll know what to look for when trying to identify them. Now, I know what you're thinking. What if I accidentally killed a water snake? Well, that's a great question. And the answer is don't worry about it. Water snakes are protected members of our ecosystem and they play an important role in controlling rodent populations. They're also known for their ability to consume fish and they're an important part of the food chain. So don't worry if you accidentally killed a water snake. Just do your best to learn from the experience and be more careful in the future. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please smash that like button for me. And if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. You can also check out my podcast, which I will link down below. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.